When I reached 500 subs on this channel, I made a 500 plants botanical garden, and despite that being a pain, I in my infinite wisdom thought I'd continue that theme for 5,000 subs. So we've taken the plants, replaced the T with a K, and this is 5,000 planks. Now you might be thinking, surely he will do something square and box-shaped, but I wanted to create something for the new Init Green fairy world. So the only remaining option was apparently an entire round owl. So let's return to a time where my scalp was less scratched, to this scene of 5,000 freshly delivered planks. I also stocked up on some more mannequins for scale in construction yellow. And this is what 5,000 planks looks like. That gnome is the project manager. You'll see that we have a combination here of roof beams from the cottage cheese living pack and some of these wooden wall slats from the snowy escape pack. And here we have my sort of arrangement that I've made to begin with what I'm calling the circle, with 0 planks placed. This is the beginning. This is where I was fresh-faced, excited, really happy to try this. I had lots of plans, and I'm a little bit less excited about it now I've done it. but there we go. I did stupidly think that I could do all this in a weekend, and it took about twice as long as that. And that's with some shortcuts that I implemented, which we'll go into. But I'm just making the circle here, and I'm using this rug as a bit of an outline guide. So there are some things that I do in this build. First of all, I placed 5,000 planks down before this started to see how my PC would cope, and it crashed. So I couldn't use 5,000 singular cottage cheese living roof beams, which is why I have some of these mountain retreat sort of slats, which each have 10 planks on them. So I'm counting each one of those items as 10 planks, but don't worry, because we still end up placing like over 3,000 of these singular other planks. And I thought we would do this because there's a little bit of a running joke on this channel that I'm constantly just placing this same plank over and over again in all of my builds. So now we're gonna do it 5,000 times. Well, almost, if you count these other planks things that we're gonna add. The other thing I'm going to do in this build is use a lot of tool mod. You don't need tool mod to use a build that's used tool mod. You just need move objects cheat turned on. But the other thing that you'll see that I'm doing now is that I'm using the save to room tool to avoid placing every single one of these planks by hand. So I'm making shapes on the floor, saving those to a room, and then flipping them round. So now we're going to come here and delete all of these planks. I counted how many we've used. I'm deleting them from my little like set of plank things that I have here. And I think it's about 200, and it's going to come up on the screen in a moment. 268 planks down in this circle. So we obviously have a lot to go. And we're going to start working on these sort of feather structures that I decided I was going to make for these owls that were quite complex, and maybe I should have done something a little bit easier, but here we go, we're doing it now already. So I'm laying these out flat on the floor. These are going to stand up vertically, but I'm making this shape on the floor because we're then going to bring in the tool mod once this is done and rotate all of this together so it stands upright, which I thought was quite a clever trick, because I was planning on doing all this individually floating every single one of these planks, and then I just had this brainwave at the right moment as I was about to do something really stupid and time consuming, and just thought, why don't I just do it flat and then rotate it? And this worked. So I feel like I've unlocked a little bit of a sort of tip, trick, skill thing here that I might take forward and use in other builds if I'm planning on ever doing something as ridiculous as this one. But we're going to do 3 of these, so this is the first one, and we're going to layer them so that there's one at the front, a sort of middle-sized one, and then a larger one at the back. And the idea is that this almost around the circle is going to look like a nest with sort of feathers coming out around it. I did look at a few things like for inspiration on Pinterest, and this is kind of like the idea that I came up with, and I thought it would match this world. The lighting is not the best in this world. I have adjusted it a bit for when we go to the cinematic bits at the end, but for now it looks a little bit dingy. I have this problem in this neighborhood. It's not the entire Init Green world, it's just this neighborhood that's like a sort of enchanted forest, but the lighting is just very dull and weird. So I don't particularly enjoy building in this place, but I thought this was the best area to do this owl thing. Now this build is obviously also very sped up as well, so I tried to record it in a way where it's not going to fling the camera around too much, and I'm also not going to be grabbing all of these planks from this little setup of delivered planks behind the whole time, because the camera would be pinging back and forth, so I am deleting them as I go and I'm counting what I'm doing. But what I'm just doing here with these planks is just separating them, nudging them up and down a bit so they're not clipping through each other and doing that horrible Z fighting thing. And now we're selecting the whole thing, rotating it, and ta-da, we now have a vertical one, which would have been so much harder to make if I tried to just make it vertically to start with. Save that as a room, and now we can just copy and paste that. And I hate to think how long this would have taken me if I hadn't actually done this. It has deleted a few planks from the bottom, because, you know, I had to turn on deletion protection with better build buy mode, and it still deleted a few things. The game doesn't want me doing this, so it does screw up a bit. And now we're just going to sort of place that thing, this wing again, rotate it by 45 degrees, and then we can save a second room, which is going to be our like 45-degree angle ones that we're going to put around 4 times. So we're just going to have 6 sort of sets of feathers in total, each with a small one, a medium one, and a large one. I'm just covering up this bit that it deleted when I saved it for some reason. And now we're going to make the second one by sort of copy pasting the first one down, which I saved flat in a room, and making a few adjustments to it. I do have the numbers somewhere. Where have I put them? The number of, I think it was 99. Each feather, the original small ones are 99 planks. This medium one of these is 114 planks. And then the third one that we're going to do after this one turns out to be 144 planks. So you add that all together, and well, at the end, I've already figured it out, and it'll come up on the title how many planks we've used. But it's a lot of planks. It's a lot of planks. So this one I just wanted to be a little bit taller. So I've done that, and I'm just having to grab a few more from our little plank supply thing, which you can see is depleting a bit now that we've done a little bit of plank placement. And I'm just like filling in these gaps that I've made to complete the shape. But this one's pretty much done, so we're going to repeat what we did with the first one, rotate it, save it as a room, and then just like copy and paste that around the same way we did with the first one. I'm using tool mod obviously in this, but the other mod that is very necessary for me to actually have done this is the better build buy mod, just because it has deletion protection in it, which, if you don't know, is a little thing you can toggle. It's an option you can toggle, where when you like draw a wall and all the things highlight yellow that they're going to be deleted, you can place the wall and those things won't be deleted. Because that was happening pretty much every time. I was trying to save these as a room, so thank God that that's an option, otherwise I would have really struggled to do this. But we've moved on to the third one now, this larger wing that's going to be at the back, and this one's going to come sort of out a bit more horizontally. I wanted this to look a bit like it was bending more over this sort of nest shape that we've made. It's going to be a bit wider, but not quite as tall as the one before. And when these three come together, you'll see at the end, they sort of make a nice little sort of separate variants of feathers. Do they look like feathers? I mean, now that I've done it, I probably would have maybe done some slight differences in this, like potentially made the planks that are sort of poking out and meant to be sort of strands of feather more, like size them down a little bit or something. But this was a first attempt at doing something as absolute bonkers as this. Will I be doing this in the future if I reach another sub goal? Not on this PC, I won't. But maybe if I get another one. Maybe by that time, if enough time has passed, I'll be crazy enough to have forgotten how like difficult this was. And who knows, maybe one day we'll have a 10k planks. And no one will be able to download it because it'd be too big. If you do download this one, just do it with caution. Like, it does work, but my PC has some image issues with leaving the lot. It will freeze. So it's all technically functional and it all works fine, but whether or not your game's going to let you use it, I have no idea. You'll just have to try. So this is the third feather done, and we're going to do the same thing again. Rotate this, add a little box around it, and save it as a horizontal version and also a sort of angled diagonal version. Place those in, and you'll see it has this nice, does it look slightly like demonic horns, maybe? A little cut here where I've recolored them, because that took ages. And we're at 1,582 planks. So we've still got a lot to do, and we're going to go on and progress to the owl's body, for which we're going to use these snowy escape planks, which I'd already kind of decided I wanted to use these specifically to do this owl's body. So it is quite nice that my PC wouldn't cope with all of these cottage cheese living roof beams and allowed me to use some of these because I wanted to. But I'm using my little curved wall trick here because this is obviously a wall item, it's hard to rotate. Using the square bracket keys. So we're lining them up to a wall to get the correct orientation that we want, and then pulling them away to place them, and then we'll just delete this circular wall afterwards. Are we going to do that? Are we going to delete it? Oh, and then I had to flip them all around so they were the correct side as well, because I didn't want that bar across the middle along the outside of the owl. Okay, getting rid of this, and there was a moment where I had a bit of a brain fart and thought that I had to repeat this all over again, so I do start doing that before I realised, why am I not just using this room trick? Why? So I did, and placed them together, and it was looking a bit wide, so I redid this, sort of nudged them together a bit, and then I'm just going to delete these sort of excess overlapping ones and jiggle this round a bit so it's more of a narrow shape, more of an owl body shape rather than a ball shape. I've never really seen a ball shaped owl, so. And now we're going to move on to the trickiest part of this build, which is trying to sort of get these to bend inwards to make more of a spherical shape rather than a tunnel shape. And I had to place 5 layers of these, so I'm not going to show you me doing the entirety of that because that would be very boring, so we'll just place a few of them and then do a bit of a jump cut. It's coming up. Where is it? Here we go, and I've recolored them as well, save you watching that. And now I'm going to start doing this sort of rotation thing using tool mod, except when I'd done it, it wasn't looking how I'd intended because it's rotated around the center of the object rather than line them up at the bottom, so you can see there's gaps in it. So then I had to do this, which is create 5 separate circles that are spaced apart precisely so that when I rotate these, they will line up correctly. And did this take me a hell of a long time to calculate? Yes, it did. But thanks to editing, it's just immediate for you, so aren't you lucky? So we're going to take these up, rotate these, and you'll see that these actually now align perfectly when I've done a little rotation on all of them to create this nice little sort of egg shape, a little bit egg shaped. But we're going to leave the top open because then they'd become too much overlap. I didn't want to do that one. But we're now at 2,882 planks. Okay, I got there. And we're going to start on the eyes for the owl. So I'm going to make a 1/4 of an eye, and then we're going to use the sort of copy-paste roof trick to flip this round and add more of them. So one eye was about 40 planks, if I'm remembering correctly. Did I bring my note through while I'm recording this to tell you the exact number? No, I didn't, because I'm stupid. So I'm just having to try and remember. But we're just making a curve here, filling in some of the gaps. It was 40, I'm remembering, because this is 10 each that I'm placing for 1/4 of an eye. And I'm having to really visualize what the shape's going to look like at the end when I've rotated these and placed 4 others, which can be quite difficult to do, but it actually turned out all right. There was really just like far too much maths and geometry involved in this, and my parents would be proud because they both have maths degrees, and you know, I've always been the child who was like, no, I'm going to draw, I'm going to paint. But now I'm actually, in some ways, I am doing maths right now. So there we go. Maths returns to us all. No. So I've saved this, copied it, done a corner, another 1/4, and now I'm sort of rotating that. I have this little guiding plank to show where I need to elevate it to. And then we're going to delete that and place it back in the original orientation. And now we have a circle. Isn't that amazing? So we're going to copy paste that. I saved so many rooms during this because I was trying to like save things just in case it went wrong as well. So I have sort of like midpoint saves of various different things. We're going to highlight all of that, bring it up, put it at eye level for the owl. And here we have a nice pair of eyes. And now I wanted to rotate these a little bit even more, just to have it so that they're slightly more angled and the light's hitting the inside surface of these eyes. However, they are facing two different directions because of how I've copied and pasted them, so I had to do a little bit of selecting, deselecting, reselecting, and then rotating them in sort of opposite directions in order to get them to align properly. So that's why there's a lot of selecting and messing around going on here. Also, these wooden slats from Snowy Escape have the most giant hitbox when it comes to selecting them. You can barely click anything through them. But now we're going to move on to the iris. So again, I'm using another rug to create this one and placing these planks. I've downsized these ones by 1. I end up having to downsize them even more because they were a bit too big, but at this point, clearly my ability to visualize how large I needed this was getting tired because of how many things I'd done so far. So I've placed these ones, and then I've sized some more planks down again just to place a sort of inner circle, and I was going to color these to make it look a bit more like an actual iris where it has the sort of lines in it and different colors, but as I said, in the end, when I do rotate this to try and put it inside the actual eye, these larger planks are too big, so we end up going down, and I think it ends up actually looking better in the end when I try and do that. So here I'm doing a little rotation, moving it into the middle box, at the middle of the box here, so that I can save it. That was another thing I had to do. When I was saving these rooms, I had to make sure that everything that I was saving was specifically aligned on the grid so that it would be centralized within the room and I could predict better where I would end up placing it when I copy pasted it. So here I've sized it down and I'm moving it in, and it should sort of align perfectly with this outer eye shape that we've made. Place the second one, and then we have to do all this selecting again. So I've sped this up so it looks less, you know, mundane. We're gonna elevate those up, and here we go, we got some eyes. A little bit of a recolor, and I'm gonna use these business and hobbies tables just to create sort of like a black backdrop. Also gonna use a corbel for a nose, and now we are at 3070 planks, and my sanity has probably dropped tremendously at this point. The next thing we're going to do is the brow. Is it an eyebrow? Is it just a brow? I'm not quite sure what it is on these birds. Sort of like feathered. I guess they are eyebrows to some extent. So I'm sizing a few of these roof beams down to create a sort of slight tear so the feather gets thinner as it's going away from the eyes. And now I'm going to use the elevation tool to create a sort of curved eyebrow looking effect. It sort of looks a bit like a bird's wing, to be honest, to begin with. But then I had this idea that we're actually going to place 3 of them, and we're going to layer them on top of each other, and they're going to get a bit shorter the closer to the owl's eyes, and then longer as it goes up to create this sort of like, I don't know, words are hard, you know what I mean. So I'm just creating this first one, which we'll then copy and paste and adjust for the next one. I'd also like to point out that by this point in the build, a couple of days had passed and a storm struck. And when there's a storm, I very often get an atmospheric migraine. So not only was my head hurting because of the complex mathematics and geometry that I was having to do at this point in time, but I also had a pounding migraine and probably should have rested, but this had already taken me far too long. So I just powered through it. I was like, whatever. If I pass out, I pass out. If I throw up, I throw up. I don't care. So just, you know, a moment for my pain during this build. Third one here, and we're gonna make this one. I'm sort of elevating each step a little bit more each time to create more of a separation as you go through the sort of length of these eyebrow things. And this is what it looks like at the end, where they're all sort of lined up. I've done a recolor, but it was all looking a little bit too flat. So one thing I'm going to do that I don't think I actually did on camera because it was just a split-second decision was I do rotate these more slightly so they look less Lego blocky and they sort of more follow the gradient up. You know what I mean. Then look a bit more smooth. But the other thing I'm doing is I'm moving each one a little bit further back. Thankfully, once you've elevated these roof beams, you can click them and they won't drop back to the floor like some objects do. So that was a godsend in this moment. Otherwise, I would have had to redo the whole thing on the floor. But you can see we're just sort of like, this is so the light hits them better instead of them blocking all each other out. It just looked a bit more natural, and it's following the shape of the owl's body as well to sort of conceal that a little bit more. So next thing I did was place this live edit tree, which actually comes in pieces and was a pain in the arse to place, which is why I didn't record it. But it's a stump and 4 branches that I've sort of scaled down and then placed on the inside of this owl. And now I had saved on another lot this sort of pre-made sunken circle that we're going to place now around the owl. And what I had to do next was select every single part of the owl with tool mod to lower it down so that we'd be inside the circle. Of course I didn't show you that, so for you it's just like marvelous instant magic, but for me this took probably about half an hour just to do that one little thing. Oh god. So we're going to colour this in, make it dark, and I did want to fill this with water. Oh, we're going to sort of get rid of this construction site a bit as well because it just got too much at this point. Yeah, I wanted to fill this with water, but it wouldn't work. So my other idea next was to sort of create a moat, an aqueduct, something around this central sunken circle area. Now, the water doesn't like circles. It's got these weird, like, blank square bits in it. So we are going to amend that, but I didn't want this water to be too wide, so I'm shrinking it down a bit, and then we're going to smooth that out with the smooth tool to create a much more of a natural looking circle. And we're also going to paint this terrain in brown because it had been green for far too long. And it sort of starts to come together at this point. You can sort of see it all of these separate things linking together. But to cover this white bit, I had this amazing idea that I would go around the entirety of the circle, placing these roof beams, individually rotating them to perfectly align to form a circle. And I'm not going to show you that whole thing because it was tedious. But this was about 130 something roof beams. Anyway, it's done now. I've recolored the water to have a few more leaves in it so it looks a bit more woodlandy. But I still have quite a few planks and also some more of these snowy escape slats. So I decided that I would take these out and create some sort of custom looking planter things. So we've just got 8 of them, rotated them round into an octagon. And we're going to double that up so it goes one higher. And then we'll come back and place some trees in these a little bit later on. But altogether, if we're counting each one of these as 10 planks, that is then 160 beams per planter, which adds up to a number if you do maths. But no, it's not coming to me. Okay, well, we're placing the second one now, so you can figure that out. I'm getting rid of these as we go, counting how many. You can see I counted them then. Please, how many planks left? I'm so tired. And we're going to place one of these in each of the 4 corners. And you can see we've finally sort of not got that many planks left to do. Delete all of this and the cones and all this extra stuff I did that was totally unnecessary at the start. We will keep the gnome though for a little while longer because he was important for reasons. There is no reason, I just liked him. And this is the final planter that we're placing. Oh, get rid of these planks. Be gone. And the remaining ones, I wasn't quite sure what to do with, and I didn't record myself doing this bit, but essentially what I did is I just copied that original circle we'd made on the floor, and then rotated it so it was vertical, and used them to make this sort of arch thing at the back. I thought it would look nice looking from the front if there's some sort of archway sort of making this look a bit grander from the front. That is 5,000 planks. So it was possible. Did I have to cheat a little bit with the snowy escape thing? Yeah. But I genuinely think if I hadn't, my PC was better, I still could have done 5,000 planks. So, you know, maybe more in future. As if I'm already saying that when I've literally just been in so much pain making this over the past couple of days. Anyway, I'm going to go through, really decorate this with, you know, like plants, and I'm going to do all my extra cluttering on it. We're going to make this functional. We're going to come back at 5,000 planks, random stupid woodland owl that could have been a box, but wasn't because I'm just awful to myself. And this is the finished result. I've got some mushrooms, I've put some park benches in here. I've classed this as a park, although the lot is such a generic. But one thing I did add that I thought was really cute were these logs here at the front, you know, the chopped tree logs. When you zoom out, it looks like little feet, which is just adorable. So I've added all sort of foliage to this sunken circle area. I've tried to match what is going on the outside world and bring that in, so the foliage is sort of similar. I've brought in those sort of round powder puff flower things. I added these lily pads which were pink, which I thought were cute. There's some swings, and there's a little bar at the back as well. There's no toilet, don't complain, I don't want to hear about it. Actually, no, there is. I put 2 bushes in there, so it's fine. And here it is, the finished thing. And now I'm going to very exhaustedly say, thank you so much for watching. Be kind to yourselves, and I will see you in the next one. And thank you for 5k.